You're underground when it happens. The world above you tears itself apart. Cities go dark, sirens fade, the grid dies like a circuit with no resistance. You're sealed in, steel doors locked, concrete thick enough to stop a blast. You've got food for months, water for weeks, and a ventilation system you bought off a prepper forum. You feel safe. You're not. 3 days in, the air tastes metallic. 5 days in, you're breathing shallow and your head pounds like someone's driving nails through your skull. By day 7, you realize the truth. Your bunker isn't a fortress. It's a tomb with a timer. Everyone dreams of the bunker, the ultimate escape pod, the fallback position when civilization collapses. But here's what the YouTube preppers don't tell you. Most people who seal themselves underground die from problems they never saw coming. Not from raiders, not from radiation, from physics, from chemistry, from the slow, silent suffocation of a system they didn't understand. This isn't about stockpiles or steel doors. This is about why your bunker won't save you and what actually kills you when you think you're safe. Let's audit the fantasy. In scenario alpha, a family believed thick walls meant safety. They sealed themselves in, trusting that isolation would protect them. Their doors could withstand explosions, but their plan ended there. They didn't consider what happens when you're breathing the same air, over and over, with nowhere for it to go. Every person exhales about 200 milliliters of carbon dioxide per minute. In a sealed room, that carbon dioxide doesn't disappear, it builds up. At just 1% concentration, you get sleepy. At 3%, your breathing speeds up and your judgment falters. At 5%, you lose consciousness. At 8%, you're dead in less than an hour. Most home-built bunkers reach dangerous CO2 levels in less than 3 days with a family of 4. The lesson? Walls don't breathe. You do. Plan for that or pay the price. In scenario beta, another group trusted their air filters more than common sense. They bought expensive HEPA filters and carbon scrubbers, thinking that was enough. But filtration isn't the same as ventilation. Filters remove dust and toxins, but they don't get rid of the CO2 you're exhaling. Without a way to bring in fresh air and push out stale air, you're just recycling your own breath. Most amateur bunkers have a fan and a hope. That's not enough. Clean air isn't always safe air. Chemistry doesn't care about your optimism. Scenario gamma, food for years, but no plan for the environment. They had freeze-dried meals, canned goods, and enough rice to feed an army. But underground, humidity is your enemy. Water vapor seeps in, condensation forms, and soon mold and bacteria take over. Black mold in particular thrives in damp and closed spaces. It can destroy your food, your lungs, and your chances of survival. Your bunker isn't just a pantry, it's a living ecosystem. Lose control, and it turns against you. Scenario Delta, power problems. They installed diesel generators, solar panels, and batteries, thinking energy was just a technical challenge. But generators need fuel and air. They produce carbon monoxide, odorless, invisible, and deadly. At 400 parts per million, you're unconscious in 2 hours. At 1600, you're dead in 15 minutes. Running a generator underground without perfect ventilation is a death sentence. Power is useless if it kills you to use it. Scenario Epsilon, the silence. They thought isolation would be peaceful, a break from the noise and stress of the world. But the human mind needs stimulation. Deprive it, and your brain starts to invent its own reality. Hallucinations, paranoia, anxiety, and time distortion set in. Sleep cycles collapse. Decision-making falls apart. In extreme cases, the damage is permanent. Your bunker isn't just a shelter, it's a sensory deprivation chamber. You might survive the disaster, but not the silence. Scenario Zeta, medical supplies. They had antibiotics, painkillers, and first aid kits. But underground, infections spread fast. Humidity and poor ventilation create a breeding ground for bacteria. Stress weakens your immune system. A small cut can become a deadly infection in days. Without hospital-grade supplies and sterile technique, your medicine cabinet is just a false sense of security. Let's talk about what really kills you underground. Humans need oxygen. about 19.5 to 23.5% in the air to function. Below 19.5, you start to suffocate. Your body tries to compensate, but your mind slows, your coordination fails. At 15%, you pass out. At 10%, you're dead in minutes. Every breath you take in a sealed bunker pulls oxygen from the air and replaces it with CO2. The math is brutal. An adult uses about 550 liters of oxygen per day. In a small bunker, you can hit dangerous levels in less than 2 days with a family of 4. CO2 is heavier than air. It sinks, pooling at the floor, creating invisible death zones. You won't see it. You won't smell it. You'll just get tired, lie down, and never wake up. This is how cave explorers die, how miners suffocate, how people in sealed bunkers become statistics. CO2 poisoning is sneaky. It feels like exhaustion. You think you just need sleep. You close your eyes. That's the last mistake you'll ever make. Commercial bunkers use air scrubbers, machines that chemically remove CO2. The most common use lithium hydroxide or soda lime. They work until the chemicals are used up. Then, without warning, the system fails. No alarm, no light, just rising CO2 and falling consciousness. You need backups. You need replacement parts. You need to understand the chemistry. Most people don't. But air isn't your only problem. Underground, humidity is relentless. Water seeps through concrete. Every breath adds moisture to the air. In a sealed space, humidity climbs fast. Above 60%, mold grows. Above 80%, you're living in a petri dish. Mold spores invade your food, your clothes, and your lungs. Some molds are toxic, causing allergic reactions, asthma, and even deadly infections. Mold also destroys your supplies, food, documents, clothing. Once it takes hold, it's almost impossible to get rid of without industrial equipment. You need dehumidifiers, you need airflow, you need to keep humidity below 50%. Most bunkers don't. And then there's the mind. The human brain evolved for social contact and change. Lock it in a silent, unchanging environment, and it starts to break down. Studies show that after just 2 weeks of isolation, the brain physically changes. The hippocampus, which controls memory, shrinks. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making, atrophies. Emotional control collapses. The longer you're underground, the harder it is to think clearly, make good decisions, or even trust your own senses.
So, you sealed yourself in, convinced you've outsmarted the apocalypse. But the real battle isn't just against the world outside, it's against the invisible enemies inside your bunker. The clock is ticking, and every hour underground brings new threats you never saw coming. Let's talk about the mind. In Scenario Theta, a group of survivalists thought they could handle isolation. They brought books, games, and even a guitar. But after a week, the silence became oppressive. The same 4 walls, the same faces, the same routine. The brain craves novelty, stimulation, and social interaction. Without it, your mind starts to unravel. Sensory deprivation isn't just uncomfortable, it's dangerous. After days in silence, your brain starts to fill the void. You hear voices that aren't there. Shadows move in the corners of your vision. Time loses meaning. You wake up at 3 a.m., unsure if it's day or night. Sleep becomes fragmented. You snap at your companions over nothing. Paranoia creeps in. In extreme cases, people develop symptoms that mimic serious mental illness, hallucinations, delusions, even psychosis. This isn't just theory. Decades of research on solitary confinement show that the brain physically changes under prolonged isolation. The hippocampus, which controls memory, shrinks. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making, atrophies. Emotional control collapses. The longer you're underground, the harder it is to think clearly, make good decisions, or even trust your own senses. Now add stress to the mix. You're worried about what's happening above. You're responsible for your family's survival. Supplies are finite. Every cough, every strange noise, every flicker of the lights becomes a potential crisis. Your body responds with a flood of stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline. In the short term, these help you react. But over days and weeks, chronic stress suppresses your immune system, disrupts your sleep, and accelerates aging. You become irritable, forgetful, and prone to mistakes. In a crisis, your own mind can become your worst enemy. But the threats aren't just psychological. Biology is relentless. In scenario iota, a family thought they had enough medical supplies for any emergency. They had antibiotics, bandages, and painkillers. But they didn't account for the unique risks of living underground. Humidity and poor ventilation create a perfect breeding ground for bacteria and fungi. A simple cut, easily managed on the surface, can become a life-threatening infection below ground. Let's say someone scrapes their hand on a metal shelf. In the damp, enclosed environment, bacteria multiply rapidly. Within 48 hours, the wound is red, swollen, and oozing pus. Without proper sterile technique and intravenous antibiotics, the infection spreads, first to the bloodstream, then to vital organs. Sepsis sets in. Without a hospital, death can follow in just a few days. Your first aid kit isn't enough. You need hospital-grade supplies, training, and strict protocols. Most people have none of these. And it's not just wounds. Respiratory infections spread quickly in close quarters. One person catches a cold, and soon everyone is coughing. In a humid, poorly ventilated bunker, viruses and bacteria linger in the air and on surfaces. Gastrointestinal bugs cycle through the group, sapping strength and morale. Without proper sanitation, a minor illness can become a major crisis. Let's revisit the air. In Scenario Kappa, a group installed a state-of-the-art air scrubber. They thought they were safe, but they didn't realize that scrubbers have limits. The chemicals inside, lithium hydroxide, soda lime, can only absorb so much CO2 before they're saturated. Once that happens, the system quietly fails. CO2 levels rise, you get tired, then confused, then unconscious. There's no warning, no alarm, just a slow slide into suffocation. The solution? Redundancy. You need backup systems for every critical function: air, water, power, medical supplies. Assume that everything will fail and plan for it. If you rely on a single system, you're betting your life on a component that will eventually break. Have spare parts, replacement chemicals, and manual backups. Test your systems regularly. Don't wait for a crisis to find out what doesn't work. Humidity is another silent killer. In Scenario Lambda, a prepper stored food in what he thought was a dry, secure room. But over time, moisture seeped in. Condensation formed on the walls. Mold took hold, first on the cardboard boxes, then on the food itself. Some molds produce toxins that can cause severe illness or even death. Others trigger allergic reactions or asthma attacks. Once mold colonizes a space, it's almost impossible to eradicate without professional equipment. To control humidity, you need the humidifiers, vapor barriers, and constant airflow. Monitor humidity levels daily. If it rises above 50%, act immediately. If you see condensation, you're already losing the battle. Store food in airtight containers with oxygen absorbers. Rotate your supplies regularly. If you find mold, discard the entire batch. Don't take chances. Let's talk about water. In Scenario Mu, a family thought they had enough water for months, but they didn't account for leaks, spills, or contamination. Underground, water can seep through cracks in the concrete, carrying bacteria and chemicals from the soil. Stored water can grow algae or bacteria if not properly treated. A single contaminated batch can sicken everyone in the bunker. The solution? Multiple water sources, filtration systems, and regular testing. Store water in food-grade containers. Use filters and chemical purifiers. Rotate your supply every few months. Have a plan for collecting and purifying new water if your stored supply runs out.
Now, consider power. In Scenario Nu, a group relied on solar panels and batteries. But after a week of cloudy weather, the batteries ran low. The ventilation system slowed, then stopped. CO2 levels climbed. The lights went out. Panic set in. Without power, every other system fails. Air, water, communication, even morale. The lesson? Power is the backbone of your survival. You need multiple sources: solar, batteries, generators, and manual backups. Store extra fuel. But remember, generators need air,
and they produce deadly gases. Never run a generator in an enclosed space without perfect ventilation. Test your systems under real conditions. Don't assume they'll work when you need them most. Finally, let's talk about the human factor. In scenario She, a group of friends thought they could handle anything together. But as days turned into weeks, tensions rose. Small annoyances became major arguments. Trust eroded. In a crisis, group dynamics can make or break your survival. Establish clear roles, routines, and conflict resolution strategies before you need them. Practice working together under stress. The bunker isn't just a shelter, it's a pressure cooker. Surviving underground isn't about stockpiling supplies or building thicker walls. It's about understanding the complex, interconnected systems that keep you alive: air, water, food, power, health, and psychology. Every system needs redundancy, maintenance, and constant vigilance. Most people underestimate the challenge. They think they're prepared, but they're not. So what does it take to truly survive below the surface? In the next part, we'll break down the essential steps to engineer a real survival plan, one that goes beyond fantasy and faces the brutal reality of life underground.